we got a teaser trailer for The Last of Us season 2 on The Last of Us Day, which used to be called Outbreak Day, but after the pandemic day, I was like, you know what, maybe we should call it that anymore.
Maybe we should.
Um,
Yeah.
and it looks good. You know, the first season was great. Um, I believe you haven't seen it because you like wanted to play the game or something. You got a PS4 now,
Yep. Yeah, I
so you can play
do.
it.
I could. I might.
I
I will,
wonder.
I think.
No, I don't think it is because I was wondering if like part one, the remake was on PS4. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not because God of War
I,
Ragnarok is on PS4, so it could be.
I can check.
But yeah, trailer looks good. I won't get too much into that because I don't want to spoil anything story wise because you haven't seen it. But this season will be shorter than the
Oh,
first at 7 episodes, as opposed to 10. But that's because they're splitting the story of the second game across several seasons. And we're not sure if that'll be 2 seasons or three. It could be both, or not both, but it could be two or three. uh,
mm,
but that makes sense because Last of Us Part Two was much longer than the first one. It's the reason I didn't finish my second playthrough because it's just such a long game, so I stopped playing in the middle of it.
real.
But yeah, Part Two is easily my favorite of the two. And I'm excited to see what they add to the story because my favorite parts of the first season were the new additions and like expanded on moments and characters. As you know, Part Two had a very controversial launch due to spoilers, leaks specifically, and a bunch of
Hmm.
misinformation, as well as mostly sexism and bigotry. And there are some like legit criticism to be made about the way that Naughty Dog decided to tell the story, but none that should have resulted in the horrible harassment that the dev team and actors got.
Yeah,
Laura Bailey especially got it bad, who played Abby.
for
It was
sure.
horrible. No, I pray that the same doesn't happen for the live action crew and cast because they don't deserve it. Except maybe Neil Druckmann, because on top of that, there is the moral dilemma of the fact that we talked about it before. And the more I look it up, the more I realize, oh no, Neil Druckmann is just straight up a Zionist. For
Dynasty,
those of you
yep.
who don't know, Neil Druckmann, creator of The Last of Us, he's also worked on Uncharted. I think he directed Uncharted 4 specifically. And uh, he also writes on the show. There was another thing I wanted to say. Oh, I think now he's like, and like, I forget the exact title of his position. If you like look up what his position is in Naughty Dog, but he's in like a higher like position of power in Naughty Dog now than he's ever been, and it's like it sucks because he sucks.
Yeah.
And I was looking stuff up to like get confirmation that like yeah he made a whole tweet about like after the Hamas attacks like saying a bunch of stuff and it's like whoa
Mhm.
dude you're weird. Um,
Yeah, he's the studio head and head of like creative endeavors, I think, of
yeah,
Naughty Dog. That's what Google's telling me.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's why I didn't purchase the PlayStation 5 upgrade for part two, and I'm just gonna stick to the version I already got. And I'm struggling to
Hmm.
decide if I'll buy their next game, and I'm really hoping that they don't make the next Uncharted game and that they have another studio make that game. Because like I'm glad they're making a new game because then it's easy for me not to play it because I have no dog in the race. Versus a Last of Us Part
Right.
Three, which I would want to play. Um,
Hmm.
and like yeah, he just sucks.
That's so
And
bad.
on one hand, he's one person in a team of hundreds, but he's in a leadership position. And
Yeah, and that's what makes it not
and
difficult, but like,
another part is that he also puts some of his views into the game. We talked about it a little bit before, but
mhm.
like the factions of the WLF or wolves as they're called in the game, and the Seraphites are based off of Israel and Palestine respectively. And yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
the
like this isn't a case where you can separate art from the art.
yeah
Artists' views are so deeply ingrained in the art.
yeah like there's a deeper discussion to be had because like at the same time, like, and it's definitely a combination of being me like trying and hoping like maybe he's not as bad as a person as he seems, um, because at the same time the Seraphites are meant to represent Palestine and the wolves Israel, and the Seraphites are shown to be this like religious group that is kind of shown to be like fanatical and kind of essentially bad, and you're not supposed to like them. But they do give you a couple characters that are from the Seraphites who are trying to leave them because one of them is trans, and like the Seraphites don't like that. Um, and then you have the wolves, who are also one of the characters. One of the main characters you play as Abby is a part of the wolves, but she's also leaving the wolves because the wolves also aren't great. So it's like a situation
Mm-hmm.
where like you have people leaving from both sides because both sides aren't great, even though in real life that's not the case.
Definitely not the case.
One is just being eradicated. But at the same time, that is also what's happening in the story of the game. And like you could analyze it in a way that is more accurate to real life, where like the
Mm-hmm.
Seraphites aren't that bad, and the wolves do like. There is never a point in time where they really make you where they like they. I think it starts off with them trying to make it seem like because one of the main characters is a part of the wolves. It starts off like yeah, some of the wolves are good, and then as the story goes along, you're like oh no, they suck.
They're terrible.
So at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like you could argue that it is closer to how the conflict is depicted in real life, but at the same time, it's still not great. Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, that separation is very difficult. And I want to support them, but like, I like need him to like come out and say something in opposition of Israel for me to actually believe that he isn't just a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything points to him just not being a good person. And like I said, I really hope they don't make the next Uncharted game. Please get someone else to do it, and you just get busy with your new game, and have someone else make Uncharted, please. But yeah, I am gonna watch the show though.
Really.
Whether or not I play any of their future games, who knows? But I will watch the next season of the show. But anybody out there, you decide not to watch this because of this, I understand. I don't blame you.
Maybe. I
Like
don't know.
I didn't,
We'll see.
because I didn't visit. I didn't play Hogwarts. Well, one because even though I am not the biggest, but I am a Harry Potter fan. I just
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care for that game or like everything surrounding it. So I was just like, I'm not gonna play that game. So
Really.
like I get it. We pick and choose depending on it depends. It definitely depends like on the situation that's happening because like for the most part I'm
For sure.
boycotting, but then there are places where I'm like I can it's easier to boycott restaurants because you can find another restaurant that makes the same thing than it is
Right.
to boycott a piece of media where it's like you might not be able to find that same thing somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you want to hold to your convictions. It's not it like people.
For sure.
It's complicated than it seems. It's more complicated than it seems.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate that we have to make
Very
these types of
unfortunate.
choices. I wish I could just
Yep.
play my games, watch my shows, but now I gotta think real long and hard where now I want to support these things.
Mm-hmm. But it does
I
in
could
the
pirate it.
long run. That is also an option.
Pirating is an
Sailing
option.
the Seven Seas is also always an option, actually. But I will say, like, it does. While it is difficult and it is like very like it's a lot more work, I guess I'll say, for lack of a better term, it does make me consume my media a lot more critically,
For
and I
sure.
think that's really important, especially nowadays where media literacy is out the goddamn window. It really does make me like think twice about the things that I engage with, and I really wish a lot of people like had that foresight to even just think about it. Like you not even like engaging actively, but like just think about the things that you lend your time to.
Yeah.
Everyone talks all day and long about brain rot, but you are forwarding said brain rot by engaging with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We should all be like interacting with the things that we or like interacting with the things we consume like with our minds, like thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Critically is the word I was looking for. We should be interacting with these things critically.
Right.
Using critical thinking,
Yeah, it's like do not fall into the easy slop trowel. It's so easy to just be like, I'm going to consume for the sake of consuming. And like I don't care about the quality or I don't care like what impact this has on the world at large. Like you have to it's borderline like life or death now.
I mean it quite literally is.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's please think about your media before you watch it. Yeah. That's all. That's my takeaway.
Yeah. And it's not an easy thing to do, but sometimes you gotta do a little bit of research, figure out who you're supporting.
Mm-hmm.